Welcome to Paranormal Nightshift, your ultimate destination for everything that goes bump in the dark. This is where your fan-submitted stories come to life, one eerie tale at a time. Tonight we have a chilling submission from Ginni, titled Imaginary Friend. But before we dive into her haunting experience, I've got something special for all of you. If you love unraveling the mysteries of the unknown, head over to paranormalnightshift.com and grab your free copy of the first ebook in the Dimensional Desperado series, The Birth of Dimensional Desperado. Meet Buck Freeman, the paranormal time traveler who walks the line between past and present to solve the mysteries of the beyond. It's a story you don't want to miss. Now, settle in, dim the lights, and prepare yourself for tonight's tale, Imaginary Friend. Let's begin. The day of my oldest daughter's 8th birthday was supposed to be one of joy, laughter, and cherished memories. We'd decided to host her party at a local bowling alley, a place bustling with the sound of crashing pins and giggling children. This wasn't just any party. It was a grand celebration with her entire 3rd grade class invited. Weeks of planning had gone into it, including my personal touch, baking her cake. I always baked my kids' birthday cakes, and this time I'd outdone myself with a bowling pin-shaped cake, perfectly fitting the theme. My daughter had always been a curious, imaginative child. She wasn't an only child, but she had an imaginary friend nonetheless, someone she often chatted with during quiet moments. This imaginary companion, while occasionally mentioned, had never been a cause for concern, at least not until the evening of the party. As we arrived at the bowling alley, the excitement was palpable. We set up the decorations, arranged the gift table, and ensured everything was perfect. The kids started pouring in, each one more excited than the last. Soon, the alley was filled with the sound of little feet scurrying around, parents chatting, and the occasional cheer as someone scored a strike. The lanes were assigned, the groups were formed, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. That's when I heard the bickering. I turned to see my daughter standing by one of the seating areas, looking absolutely furious. A small crowd of curious kids had gathered around her, and their faces showed a mix of confusion and amusement. I walked over, feeling a mix of concern and embarrassment. "What's going on here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "No one can sit here," my daughter yelled, her little face scrunched up in defiance. "Why not?" I asked, glancing at the empty chair that was apparently off-limits. She crossed her arms, her voice rising. "This seat is for Wysteria." "Wysteria?" I repeated, confusion flooding me. "Who's Wysteria?" "My friend, Mom," she exclaimed, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. The other kids started giggling, and a couple of parents nearby shot me curious glances. I felt a flush creep up my neck. Trying to diffuse the situation, I knelt down and said softly, "Well, maybe you could ask Wysteria if it's okay for one of the real kids here to use the seat. Just for now?" Her eyes widened with indignation. "No, Mom, this is her seat." I sighed, realizing this wasn't a battle I was going to win without creating an even bigger scene. "All right. Let's move someone to another team," I said, directing the displaced child to a different spot. I walked away, hoping that would be the end of it, but only a few minutes later I heard my daughter scream, "Wysteria hates this party. She hates the cake you made." The room fell silent. Every parent, every child turned to look at me. I froze, feeling like I'd just been struck. Embarrassment and hurt welled up inside me as I stared at her. My pride in the cake I'd worked so hard on, my excitement for this party, it all felt shattered in an instant. Unable to process it all, I mumbled an excuse and slipped into the restroom. Behind the locked door, I let out a shaky breath, trying to regain my composure. My daughter had never acted like this before. What was happening? When I returned, most of the families were leaving. They murmured polite goodbyes, but the atmosphere was awkward. The party was over. We packed up and headed home in silence. Once we got home, the kids went to their rooms to play, and I sank onto the couch, feeling defeated. My daughter, as if sensing my mood, came out a little later. She approached me, her face unusually serious for an 8-year-old. "Mommy," she said quietly, "Wysteria said she's sorry. She didn't mean to hurt your feelings. She's just sad that she didn't get any birthdays with you." Her words hit me like a gust of cold wind. My breath caught, and I struggled to find a response. "Well," I finally said, "tell her I'm sorry she didn't get any birthdays." I decided it was time for a serious talk. I pulled her onto the couch beside me. "Honey, we need to talk about today. It wasn't okay to yell at your friends or make a scene like that. You hurt people's feelings." She looked at me with those big, earnest eyes of hers and said, "But Mom, those seats were for family only." "Sweetheart," I said gently but firmly, "Wysteria isn't real. She's your imaginary friend, and you should have been kind to your friends." Her next words sent a shiver down my spine. "Mom, do you know who Wysteria is?" "Yes," I said, confused. "She's your imaginary friend." She shook her head, her expression deadly serious. "No, Mom. She's my sister. She's the baby you lost before me." I stared at her, my heart pounding. How could she possibly know? I had never told her about the miscarriage I'd had before she was born. The room felt colder, the air heavier. My daughter's gaze didn't waver. Her small face filled with a strange mix of innocence and certainty. I didn't know what to say. I just held her close, my mind racing with questions I didn't know how to answer. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was more to Wysteria than I'd ever imagined. With that being said, Ginni, thank you so much for your story. Remember, if you want to support the show, head on over to our Patreon page. Your contributions help us keep the lights on, the stories flowing, and the time traveler fueled up for his next adventure. But hey, if you can't support us financially, no worries. Just sharing the show with a friend or rating us on your favorite podcast platform goes a long way. And if you've got a spooky story of your own, we'd love to hear it. Share it with us right here on Paranormal Nightshift. You never know, your story might just become the next chapter in the Paranormal Time Traveler series and told here on the show. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled for the unexplained, your ears open for the unheard, and your minds open to the possibilities.